Hello everyone and welcome to OneControlReport.com quick play of No More, or Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. I almost said No More Heroes first. This is a spin-off series in the No More Heroes, or a spin-off title in the No More Heroes series. If you're unfamiliar with the No More Heroes series, like a Wii series back in like 2007 was the first game, I think, and then 2010 was the second game. And I think a lot of people like that original one, and I definitely did as well. It was kind of like a, I guess you'd call it like a, I don't know if it's a cult hit per se, but it definitely had its following. And there's No More Heroes 2 on the Wii that didn't quite live up people's standards, but it probably overall is a better game in terms of gameplay. So this game doesn't really match those games. It's more like a weird multiplayer hack and slash kind of top-down action game, I guess you call it. So let's just go ahead and jump in. Probably easier to just go ahead and show you. But yeah, the previous games were more like behind the back, like third-person brawlers, I guess you could call them. Where this is more isometric. It's a lot more simpler in terms of the combo system. There's not as many like melee attack-based skills, but there's other types of skills they kind of put in place here. So this game is following Travis again from the series, but it also follows a dude named Badman, who kind of has ties to the original No More Heroes. He seems kind of shallow on top, and I think any of the actual interactions with Badman are kind of whatever for the most part, but they actually go into his backstory, and I think his backstory is probably the best story bits from this game, like before he became a assassin, essentially. So the premise of this game is basically Travis and Badman use this like VR machine to go to different worlds. So unfortunately, I can't find out how to show these again, but each of these levels start with like a pretty elaborate opening cutscene that is has different styles. Like there's one that's more like a PlayStation era like CG cutscene kind of thing. It's like very simple models and things like that. And there's other ones that are more like FMV based and things like that. So it's like a bunch of references to a bunch of different video game styles. Even one that like specifically represents another Grasshopper game. I will say this game has the problem that I think all Grasshopper games have, is that like ever since the original No More Heroes, the writing in these games just got kind of weird. They became very like fourth wall breaking. The original No More Heroes definitely has fourth wall breaking stuff, but it's like basically it constantly is trying to break the fourth wall in this case. So like and it doesn't help that, you know, that they're in a video game world. So in this case, it's just like this dude is saying, "I'm about to fight you," and then Travis is just like, let me see, it says like mid bosses are usually silent, and then I'm thinking of a different one then. But there's other times where it's like he's like, "Oh, this is an action game. Stop talking," and stuff like that. And you'll see that a lot where they keep saying like, "Stop disappointing the gamers. This is an action game. Stop talking so much." And I'm like, I mean, technically, like, I don't know, like it's really not that much talking. I'd say this is probably one of the lighter story-based games in terms of the series. I'm doing a great job right now, by the way. It's probably one of the lighter story-based games. There's just clearly not the budget there needed for like the cutscenes. Ouchie. But they like constantly like sit there and like complain about game design and things like that, and like how much text there is on screen. And there's very rarely that much text. There's a couple story portions that go a little long, but we'll get into that later. So yeah, it's pretty basic attack system here. You have a light attack that's almost basically a free attack. You can basically swipe at any time with this. There's no effect on your movement. And then you also have like a heavy attack that's more pins you down to the ground, and it has like a 2-hit combo. But if you do go out of a roll with it, you also get like an extra 3rd hit on it, basically. But as much as it is like a 2-hit combo, it kind of rolls into each other pretty well, so you can pretty easily just like spam through all this stuff. And then if you see on the left side of the screen there, I have like 4 skills for my character. So in this case with Travis, I have like a spread shot that stuns enemies. So I can come in here, and once he's stunned, well, I killed him. But I can basically slow down time, so if he's like in with this area here, he'll be slowed. But if I knock him out, he'll be fast again. And then I also have like this little gas bomb I throw down right now. These skills are, and then like a dash. The dash is actually just whenever I'm playing a normal level in this game, I just keep the dash on because it's just the fastest way to move. But if you go in here, you collect a variety of skills over the course of the game. I will say that probably the earliest skills in the game are the most useful. I found that the later skills were typically more gimmicky, and I had very specific use cases for them, but very rarely found them to be like a blanket use across the entire game, as much as just slowing and stunning enemies is kind of a big thing. I'm showing you the first level right now, which the first level is actually probably my favorite level in the game. It has a lot of variety in it. So basically, what you didn't see in that previous area is we were basically like in a warehouse area, and in that warehouse area, it was you have like a bunch of platforms that you basically can rotate to get through the area. And so you have to sit there and like rotate a bunch of platforms to kind of figure out how to get through the level. And then so after this, you have more of this like straightforward top-down action segment. I'd say that those platforms are probably the most visually interesting part of this. Sorry, probably the most mechanically interesting part of the first level. But in terms of visuals, the first level actually goes through quite a few things. So the initial part of the level is like this weird, like dirt warehouse area. Then you get into that factory. And then you're like out on the highway here, fighting little dudes. And then you'll see later on we're going to go through a couple other transformations here, or at least one other big one, before we get to the end of this level. I would say every level is about an hour long, and there's I think like about 7 levels. There's a couple of extra levels that are not. It's like 6 to 7 levels actually, but there's a couple of extra levels that aren't particularly full levels per se. They're more like story levels. But yeah, well, I'll show you one more other level in this demo, or in this quick play, and then we'll also go through some of the story stuff real quick. But for the most part, the combat in this game is pretty simple. So I think a lot of what it is for me, because I actually do really like this early combat quite a bit, is a lot of it comes down to kind of the feel of the game. So like I will say this light attack, I personally don't find it very satisfying to use. I try to avoid using it as much as possible. Because it's just kind of like, there's really no like weight to it. You just kind of do this, and in true No More Heroes fashion, if you want to save, you go in the toilet, and then you go to the bathroom to save. But yeah, the light attack doesn't really have any weight to it, so it's kind of just like this free thing you can kind of do. The only real downside to the light attack is if you look in the top left corner of the screen here, once we get out of the toilet room, I have like an energy bar up there, like a battery. And as I use my light attack, it drains that battery a lot faster than if I use the heavy attack. So when you run out of battery, you can't attack anymore, or at least you can't attack and do damage anymore. So you have to kind of stop for a second, and I'll show you guys once I get on the other side of this loading screen. You got to kind of stop for a second, and then you got to shake the controller to like charge it up, although I'm at full energy now. So I personally find the light attack just to be kind of... yeah, it's very draining on your energy, and I don't think it's very satisfying to use. I usually use them just on these little grunts right here. These guys literally have 1 HP, so it doesn't really matter how you hit them. But these harder guys, I typically try to focus on heavy attacks, because it's just like a one-hit kill, and you can catch multiple enemies in them. And I think it just feels better. There's a sense of movement to it that I like a lot. It reminds me a lot of El Shaddai, where it was kind of like you kind of rolled between enemies and then hit them... or like kind of get into a combo with them and then like switch between the enemy once you're getting like compromised from the back. You also have this special skill. As you hit enemies without taking damage, that top left corner, there's like a circle that fills up. As you use your special, it levels up, so you can get up to level 3. But you see right there, I just took some damage and went back out to level 2. The higher that number, the more damage your special does. These bigger guys, I typically want to use like skills with them. So if I just sit there and try to like hit them without any kind of buff, I'm usually going to get hit, because there's actually very not. It's not a consistent stun on these heavy attacks. It's kind of mixed depending on which attack you're hitting them with. I will say that my reliance on heavy attacks seems to probably contribute to me taking a lot more damage, I feel like, than you probably would other people. Most of the dialogue in the game looks like this. This guy's just kind of a weird talker dude. You'll see him a lot, and he just has a lot of flavor text is all it is. No real story text. The coins are used to buy t-shirts, but t-shirts aren't that important. They don't have any like stats associated with them or anything, so it's just up to you whether or not you want to, invest the time into it. So a lot of the game is just like avoiding as many attacks as you can before you can get in to hit the enemy. If they're blue, they typically shoot stuff. If they're red, they're typically melee characters. I'm trying to think if that's always the case. I can't say for sure, though. But definitely on these earlier enemies, that's how it is. But yeah, like, see, if I'm using the heavy attack there, it's really hard to dodge these bullets. But, I like to get that one hit in. So I'm also, you can level up your character, so I'm also quite a bit higher level than what these would be. So I'm level 16 right now, where this is the first level in the game. So the expectation would be that you're level 1. These guys are like little bonus guys you can kill. They disappear if you don't kill them in time. So you see in the top left corner there, I'm at 1 right now with my special attack. And even though I'm killing and hitting enemies, I'm not getting any more energy on that or leveling that up. So I actually have to use the special to level it up. And now it's level 2, and now I can fill up my meter more. You can do this and like slow down enemies in here, but you have to keep in mind these guys out here actually aren't slowed because they're not in the field. So you have to. Sometimes it's useful to like slow the harder like melee enemies, and then just go outside the circle and go clean up. Overall, though, like this doesn't have the depth. I don't know if I want to use depth as the word, because like No More Heroes 1 and 2, I'd say, aren't particularly deep melee action games. You basically spend most of the game just kind of mashing A through most of the enemies of the game, and then swinging the remote to kind of like chop through things. This game's pretty much the same. The biggest difference is that there's no block, and it's not like a locked-on one-on-one combat. There is a lot of crowd fighting in No More Heroes games, but it's really built to be one-on-one for the bosses, and they don't really have anything that like distinguishes it between that. And this game kind of goes to the extreme other side, where it's like this entire game feels built to like fight crowds of enemies, so it gets a little weird once you start fighting individual enemies in the game. Alright, so that was the level 3 one, so it's the Tiger Man. I don't know if you can tell on the video, but I've noticed this game does have some performance problems. There's definitely been times where it's been pretty choppy for me. It's nothing like, that's a problem for the game itself. It's just visually it looks a little weird. I don't want to get close to him while he's doing that. Wasted my slowdown on that. I would say this game doesn't look particularly good overall, unless you're talking about like the more stylized things. I think this area in particular looks pretty good, but the majority of the areas don't look like this. So, all right, and that's basically the end of the first level. We started halfway through the level already, so it took us a good 13 minutes to get through there, and I'm a leveled up character and stuff. So let's go check out one of the other game worlds real quick. I'd say the first 4 worlds feel pretty unique. They all have unique mechanics. I'm gonna go ahead and skip this cutscene here. They all have unique mechanics. Like that first level is more variety based, I feel like, where the second, third, and fourth levels all kind of have their particular gimmicks that they focus on. And then I'd say the last 2 or 3 levels don't really have a gimmick, or the gimmicks they have seem to be more simple in a way that I don't think is particularly good. I'd say the game kind of drags on a little long because they don't really challenge you in new ways for a while. So let's check out let me see, dude. Golden Dragon. I would show you Coffee and Donuts, but I'd have to make a new save file to make it actually worth it. Coffee and Donuts is interesting because it's actually like a side-scrolling level. So the entire level takes place from a 2D perspective, essentially. So you know, gameplay-wise, it actually feels quite a bit different from the other levels in the game because how you move around enemies and stuff is different. You do have a little like wiggle room in like a 3D space, but Golden Dragon GP. So this is probably one of my favorite worlds, at least aesthetically. Basically, you're like in this little apartment complex thing, or I guess an inn here. As you can see, like visually, this area doesn't look particularly great. It's not a great looking game, but you know, it's mostly zoomed out for the most part, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But kind of the gimmick of this game, or this area, is there's this little like portable VR headset here, and there's like a bunch of races you can compete in. So it's like a drag race essentially. So we'll open it up here and see if I can actually win this or if I'll fail miserably. I'm always bad at the startup. It's like a Mario Kart thing where you can press the accelerate at the right time and get like a boost. I did not get the boost. So basically the whole thing with this mode is you want to shift. I'm doing a bad job. Come on. Yeah, so I lost here. I'm going to lose at least. So. Exploded. It's got a neat aesthetic. It's like a very Tron-ish kind of look, but that's kind of what that is. Kind of the whole premise of this level is that you have your motorcycle, but you don't have enough like equipment to properly race. So like you saw, I had like six gearbox things I can move between. Basically, I would hold down the trigger and then move the analog stick to go between different, you know, shift stances. And then so basically you do these cleanup jobs to go get new parts for your motorcycle, which then give you the ability to shift to higher gears and go faster. This level's probably, you know, even though visually it's kind of nice, it's probably one of the more bland levels. It's basically just this repeated over and over again until you get to the end of it. And it's basically just a bunch of square rooms with hallways, but there's a little bit of variety on like one of the side paths we'll go on. Those are like shield enemies, so they're a bit harder to get through. Get my little gas bomb down. I'll get some different skills on. I won't be able to use them immediately. It'll take a second, but I can throw some different skills on. You can play as different characters. So included in the game already is Badman and Travis, and then Shinobu and Bad Girl are DLC characters for after you've beaten the game. They don't really play differently enough in a way that I think is probably not a. Get that one shining chip, and we'll keep the heavy chip because I want to still be able to slow people. We'll try the strike freedom chip too. But yeah, so each character more or less plays the same. Bad Girl in particular has a different like heavy attack, but it's barely different. So you know, I would say unless you're like really committed to playing through this game multiple times for whatever reason, you can probably just pick one character and stick to them, just level them up, and then focus on their skills. But you know, for multiplayer, if you want to do multiplayer stuff, the only real thing to note, I think, well, one, I haven't played the multiplayer, so I can't say for sure what it plays like. But I did notice that like the multiplayer mode, or not multiplayer mode. The skills you equip are unique to a character, so if equip this dash to another character, it actually takes it off Travis. So you have to do more of a variety of skills. You can't just both use the same skill set. I do like the movement of this game a lot. It's just really easy to kind of get around. Oops, missed him. I'm gonna slow and then put an orb. Wait, where'd he go? Stay there. threw a laser down on him. That laser takes a long time to fire, so I think it's like a great thing to pair with the slow. The only problem is that the slow part of it requires you to stand there and like wait for it to shoot, so it's not quite as like you're basically wasting time that you'd be able to sit there and melee enemies if you use that slow and the orbital beam at once. So it was a combo I used for a little while, but I didn't really stick with it. Most of the enemies kind of just look like this through the game. There's definitely a variety of enemies. But I would say it's probably pretty light on visual design, you know. But I mean, the other No More Heroes games are very much just dudes with weapons, so it's a bit more variety than at least the earlier stuff. But I think the original No More Heroes is really known for its boss fights more than anything, which these games haven't really met that level of expectation, I feel like, when it comes to boss fights. So basically, instead of this cardboard box here full of money, there'd be like a car part here that I could upgrade my motorcycle with, and then I'd be able to compete in the next race and beat that one, and then go to the race after that. And you basically did that like 3 or 4 times, and until you got to the final boss. This boss is pretty easy to reach, so we'll just go ahead and go to him, and I'll go and show it to you. Like I said, like the original No More Hero games are very much built for one-on-one combat, it feels like, and then the more crowd control nature of the game is kind of a side effect of like, oh, we're just going to make you fight things. This game, it's kind of the opposite. The game's kind of built around crowd control, and when you do one-on-one boss fights, it just doesn't feel quite as good as you would expect it to, I guess. The bosses are, you know, they're not bad characters, but they're just kind of not really memorable, which I think is the problem No More Heroes has had since the first game. They made such a strong cast of characters in the first game, and these ones are just kind of, yeah, they're fine. They've got their gimmicks. There's definitely like things to like about them, but I don't quite love them as much. And you know, it's hard. Whoops, I messed that up. It's hard to say like how much of that is, you know, based off the expectations. Like, you know, when you go to No More Heroes 1, it's the first game, so you know you might not have the expectations of a game like this. But I do feel like, you know, Grasshopper games in general have been trying to build like really strong characters for a while. This is gonna fail horrendously. I should get a different skill set on. I feel like the Grasshopper games for a while have been trying to, like, you know, make these kind of, you know, weird, crazy characters who frequently will break the fourth wall, or kind of fall into the tropes of just being like overly confident, or like are like super likable and just want to do their duty, and so you as a player like sympathize for them, even though you have to kill them. So, you know, I'd say this is about the same as things like Killer is Dead, and No More Heroes 2, where it's like, yeah, there's definitely, you know, some character design put in here, but just maybe not, you know, as memorable as I feel like they should be. Maybe the one case I can think of that's the exception from a Grasshopper game is David from Killer's Dead. I feel like he's a really strong boss character, so I don't think it's just a nostalgic thing or something like that, or like, you know, having too big of expectations on the No More Heroes franchise anymore. I think they can do a good boss character. I just don't quite know what makes one up. I will say that one thing I've had issues with the Travis Touchdown in particular, between No More Heroes 2 and this game, is he's kind of just like a lovable oaf in that first game. He's kind of a dumbass in a lot of ways. And, you know, he's kind of evolved into, you know, he got to the top, he became number 1. He's kind of evolved into this, like, you know, I don't know what I'd call him. Like, he's just kind of overly confident, and I feel like Travis can't have fun anymore. He's just always, he always has to be a cool badass, is what it feels like he has to be. and I don't know if that's really a good thing for Travis. So each boss has kind of like multiple phases. So this is where that gas attack came from, this boss. So, but for the most part, I feel like any kind of skills where you stun enemies is good, because you just can get in there and do some like heavy melee attacks. Otherwise, you gotta sit here and do light attacks for a while. Also, handy feature is that if you level up, you can sit there and like chick when you level up, which lets you recover health, which is a great way to fill health. There's a life system in this game, but there are checkpoints every time you save at a what's it called? Come on, man. Every time you save at a toilet, that's considered a checkpoint. So, but yeah, like the combat, just like, you know, this is kind of it. You know, you have the choice between the heavy attack or the light attack, and then you have your skills. And I think the skills are like a really nice addition. And, you know, as we go forward, you know, it seems likely that they're going to do No More Heroes 3. In the downloadable content for this game, they actually tease it. Or at least, I'm trying to remember what they said. I can't remember if they say it's like in development or something at the end of it. You know, I'm hoping that's something that comes forward in the series going forward. You win. And there's like things about this game that are like aesthetically really nice. You know, it's like, I really like this cool effect they have in the save rooms, and when you fight the bosses, where you have like this weird tunnel with lights going down it. It's just a nice look. I'm gonna go ahead and just skip this cutscene here. And then I'll go ahead and show you guys the more like plot portion of this game. It's, I think, a bit interesting in how they present it. It's more or less a visual novel. I like it for the most part, and despite how much they complain about how much text there is, other than the first chapter of it, which is kind of lengthy, the rest of them are pretty brief for the most part, and so you don't have to worry about it too much. I will say that the story of this game is kind of, it feels kind of frivolous for the most part. At least Travis's. Travis just doesn't really seem to have, you know, that much motivation for what's going on here. He more or less just seems to be like exploring the mystery of this VR machine that was banned, essentially. So we'll go look at one of these real quick. If you are a Grasshopper fan, though, there are a lot of like references to other games in here that we'll see. One level in particular reference. Oh, I went straight to the quit button. One level in particular is kind of focused on a very specific game. I don't know if it's considered a spoiler to say what game it is, but if you've played all of Grasshopper's game, it's definitely one that you will probably appreciate to some extent. It's actually one of the games that I have not played from Grasshopper. So it is. I actually didn't really find it that exciting of a level. It's kind of straightforward for the most part. It's more of just like kind of like a top-down level. It has maybe a bit more of like a exploration aspect to it compared to the other levels, but I don't think it's enough to really distinguish itself from many other levels in the game. So you have this, like, I don't know what this is particularly trying to emulate, but it basically looks like an Apple II interface kind of thing, old PC visual novel. So it's pretty, you know, if this isn't your thing, there's a lot of this. So this is how most of the story is delivered. So you just kind of come through here. I'm obviously not going to make you read, or I'm not going to read this text to you, but I just kind of want to show you the kind of the look and feel of it. You get these character portraits on the left and right, and then I skipped past it on accident, or this one right there. You get like little environmental shots down there to like represent where they're at, and some more particular action, as we'll see here in a little bit. Of course, his name is Epona for you Zelda fans, I guess. I feel like this game like grafts onto a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of any kind of video game references or complaining about video games. I guess it just feels very self-aware in a way that, I guess, you know, it is a game based on being in a VR machine, so it maybe should be, but it just, none of it really comes off as clever or anything. It just kind of comes off as like, oh, you know, they sure did make that reference. So right there, you can see at the bottom one, you have a dude holding a guy's decapitated head. And who is that dude? He is Mondo from Killer is Dead. So, you know, little references like that. Killer is Dead is an alright game. If you like No More Heroes, like behind the back No More Heroes kind of thing, Killer is Dead is not as good as the original No More Heroes, at least in the ways I think people like the original No More Heroes. But it is a suitable kind of side thing. So just kind of the story stuff. I think Travis's stuff is mostly pretty frivolous. It's more or less just kind of learning how to unlock the different areas in the game, the different levels and things like that. Where Badman, who is kind of a crappy character on the surface level, I think his backstory is really good. So, you know, if you haven't, I would go ahead and read it. Although I'm trying to recall. So here's the caveat here. This is, if you buy the physical version of this game new or bought, I don't know if they're still producing it or not. You got all the DLC bundled in with this. So it's kind of vague to me what parts of these things are DLC. So I think Badman's story may actually be a DLC part of the game. So if you bought it digitally and, you know, didn't get the DLC, I think that part won't be in there. These two characters over here, they're also DLC. But again, like I said, they're not really that different. So unless you're really committed to, like, you know, exploring every part of this game, they have their own unique, or two of their own unique skills. But they're kind of both alterations. So the girl on top there is an alteration of Badman, and then the girl down there is like an alteration of Travis. And they have some differences, but they're largely, you know, Travis and Badman already are not that different. So it's not like you're getting a ton of variety. And even though there's 4 characters, you can only play 2 players at a time, as far as I can tell. So yeah. There is one downloadable stage, which I think is a little bad at the beginning. But once you get past that first area in it, it actually picks up really quick, and it's actually a really nice final level in the game, I feel like. And then you can go on your PC, and you can buy T-shirts. You know, there's like I said, there's like a nice aesthetic to parts of these games. So there's like a bunch of really silly indie games in here. So if you really like, I don't know, if you really like Nuclear Throne, I've never seen this before. I've heard the name Nuclear Throne before, but I haven't played it. You can go in here and be like, I like Nuclear Throne. Actually, you know what? Let's not do Nuclear Throne. I didn't like that t-shirt, but I did see this shirt that I actually kind of liked. I don't remember what this game is, but I kind of like how it looks. So you can go in the bathroom here, change your t-shirt. I think both Travis and Badman wear t-shirts. The ladies do not, so you cannot change their attire. So we can wear whatever this is, Pinku Niku. That's my new shirt now. So Badman can also have his shirt changed. And then there's just some little things here, some extra lore on the fax machines. I accidentally clicked on the death drive machine again. And then these little archive things that kind of show you these little neat little magazine ad things. But yeah, that's kind of Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes. It's a pretty short game. It's not very long. It's about I don't know. I'd say I probably spent like a little under 10 hours on it. Maybe closer to 6. I'd have to double check the time. It was not a long game. I'd say probably between 6 to 10 hours. But like I said, playing through the other characters, you do get some different dialogue, but for the most part, it's kind of just interchangeable dialogue. They just like put between every characters. I'm not sure how in-depth their dialogue gets. I poked around a little bit, and again, it didn't seem like it was changed too much, but I didn't go out of my way to completely check out. What is that? It's like a bowl of meatballs. I can't even tell. Yeah. So I like this game. It's not great. I think I am kind of the contrast of, to my understanding, how people feel about this game is that it starts off bad and gets better as it goes. I think it starts off great and gets worse as it goes, because the level design in particular just kind of becomes a little stagnant throughout. So, but again, I think if you're a fan of grasshopper games and stuff, I think this is kind of neat. There's Travis adjusting his junk. That's about the type of stuff you should expect from this game. Travis is going to talk to you. Travis is like constantly aware that you, the gamer, are playing the game. So you can expect a lot of that. And yeah, it's a fun little thing, but I wouldn't, you don't have to play this game either. I don't really feel like it advances the No More Heroes story that much in any way. Although I would tell you honestly, I don't really know where the No More Heroes story ended up after No More Heroes 2. The ending of that game didn't really make a lot of sense to me from what I recall. So who knows? I don't know. Again, this game's alright. I wouldn't tell you not to buy it, but I'm also not saying you should go out of your way to buy it unless anything in here that you've seen really stands out to you. So yeah, thanks for coming. OneControllerReport.com is the website, and we've got podcasts, got streams up there, articles, and more traditional videos, as well as the quick play stream stuff. So go ahead and check it out, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.